Good evening, beautiful people.
And good morning.
And good morning, depending on when you're listening or watching this show, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Either way, I'm happy you're here. Thank you for another episode of Mose Knows listening in. That's my boy Dion Parker. I'm Corey Mose. And for today's episode, Red River Rivalry Week. Say that 15 times in a row. That's going to be crazy.
Yeah, no, that was
Yeah. Don't even try, buddy.
not doing it.
And so for this show, we're going to talk to my boy Chris Williams from News 9 in Oklahoma. He's going to give his perspective from the Sooner side as we go over enemy lines. But before we get to that interview, real quick, just want to talk about kind of the atmosphere right now around this Texas program. Of course, the Arch Manning article just came out earlier this week about the New York Times. I would love to kind of dive into that, but I'm going to do that on a separate whole thing. And so for this episode right now, though, I do want to speak about the factor of that article, right? And the impact. I think, to be honest, no one's really discussing how much Arch Manning's status is low-key helping Sarkisian right now. Everyone's bashing Arch. Everyone's talking about Arch's play and how much he's underperforming. But if anybody else would be the quarterback of Texas, I feel like people will be talking about how Sarkisian is coaching bad and how Sarkisian is underperforming with the way his team has performed on the field these last couple of Saturdays. And so I feel like personally Sark is feeling that heat though. And the reason why I believe that is because of the comments and the post-game analysis and answers that he's given us in these press conferences. And so I just want to go back, Dion, to the game last week after Florida. He mentioned something in a sense of we're not going to be woe is me. And so let's listen to this soundbite real quick from Sarkisian after the game on Saturday in Gainesville.
With 2 losses now, do you have to reshape the season goals or not?
No, not at all. We're a one-loss team in the SEC, and there's a lot of football left to be played. We got 7 conference games to be played. I'm not going to sit here and give us the poor me's and the woe is us. We'll get back. We'll get ready to go. Obviously, got a big pivotal game next week against a rival opponent in Oklahoma, a very good football team. We need to get ourselves ready to play and focus on next week. And I think, one of the mistakes we can make is look big picture. We need to focus on this week and put our best foot forward and to get ready to play against a good football team.
All right, so you hear Coach say, we're not going to do any woes me's. We're not going to feel sorry for ourselves. But something interesting happened on Monday where he had a different soundbite with a different tone. Listen to this.
Steve, you haven't led in either of your games against Power 4 teams, and I was just curious how so many people, including myself, could be wrong about your team, and how stunned are you?
You're not I don't know if I'm stunned. I mean, take the other – how many teams are there in college football? 130 – 36. Take the other 135 and have them go play at Ohio State and at the Swamp. See how they do.
So now he's saying, hey, I want to see other teams go into the shoe. I want to see other teams go into the Swamp and try to get wins unlike what we did. And so I'm just like, I get it, Sark. I get it. You're trying to make a statement. You're trying to defend your team. But to me, Dion, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, that's a contradiction. You can't say we're not going to do any woe is me's and we're not going to feel sorry for ourselves, but then backdoor and say, well, I want to see another team do that. Am I tripping, or do you kind of feel the same way?
No, I totally agree with you. It feels like you were saying, all the pressure's on Arch, but he's starting to feel all this, backlash. Not saying that his job is on the line, but he's starting to feel the pressure of this team's not performing they opened at number 1 in everybody's regard. So this team's not performing from number 1 to all the way unranked in a couple of weeks. It's going to start coming back on you like, yo, what's going on? Why is this team not performing? Your play call's been a little, not to your standard. And so eventually we're going to start taking the air off of Arch and Sark, what's up, dog? You got to be able to speak for this. So who knows? Maybe he woke up on the wrong side, or he saw a tweet that finally got to him. But tone's completely different. Tone is completely different.
Yeah, and I think that's just, I get it. You want to be able to defend your team. You want to be able to defend yourself, right? And know that the media, as we ask questions, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But I think at the end of the day, Sark has been portrayed and he's known for being an offensive genius. But what's the biggest struggle for the Longhorns right now? It's the offense. And so that's something that I also think is playing a factor for him because he knows that like everyone's looking at him as this masterful play caller and this guy that's just knows how to scheme people wide open and he's had 1,000-yard rusher every single year so far as a head coach, but it's not looking so far it's going to be that way this time. And I think he is kind of feeling a little bit of that heat. And like you said, not heat as in hot seat, but heat as in the expectations for this season specifically not going the way it's supposed to be. And then after that atmosphere in the swamp, man, that was an eye opener for me just to see a real SEC atmosphere and to hear the different chants. Every time a penalty happened, they would do this chant called like "Move back, you suck." That was live, and it's only going to get worse this season because you got to go to, well, maybe not worse, but it's only going to be kind of similar. You got to go to Starkville and play Mississippi State. Those cowbells are so annoying. Trust me, I know. My dad went to Mississippi State and he used to ring it in the garage. I'm just like, bros, like stop ringing that cowbell. Like, so I can't imagine the stadium packed with cowbells. And so that's going to be another test for this offense that they try to go on the road and play well. But the next test is against Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry in the Cotton Bowl, by the way, which we all know it's going to be loud, but only for one side of the stadium because it's a 50-50 split. That's one of the best parts about this rivalry. And to talk about this game, I'm going to bring in my guy, Chris Williams from News 9 in Oklahoma. And we had a great conversation just about this matchup, but y'all want to tune in because he also have a little insight about John Mateer and what he saw with his own two eyes about why he thinks Mateer is probably going to play on Saturday. All right, beautiful people, we're now going over enemy lines with News 9 sports anchor and reporter Chris Williams, a friend of mine, but also a friend of the business because he's great at what he does. Chris, how you doing today, my guy?
Hey, I am south of the Red River right now, so I am technically on your side of the Red River covering OU. I'm excited. Best week of the year of the college football season.
Yeah, it's awesome, right? Because you get to, one, see the homies, but then also one of the best rivalries of all time, Texas versus OU, Red River rivalry. The 50-yard split is awesome. And then, of course, the Golden Hat. Who's going to take it this year? But a lot to get into because there's a lot of things happening around this game. Not just, of course, Texas's downfall so far this season, unranked now from number 1 to no ranking at all, but also the uprising of the Oklahoma Sooners in the top 10 when people didn't think that Brent Venables would even have his job by this point of the year. And so my question to you, Chris, to start things off, what is the vibe of OU right now in Norman?
Well, the fans are, I would even say, overconfident right now. I mean, there were people even before Texas lost to Florida that were saying, even without Mateer, I'm not too worried about that Texas game. I was like, are you sure? Have you seen? I mean, I know they don't have the offensive line that they had last year, and Archer's been struggling, but I mean, they got some guys down there. And I think 6 is probably a little high for OU, though the top isn't as strong as it has been. And out of the rankings is just ridiculous for Texas. That was a great Florida team in the swamp. The other lost a one-score game to Ohio State. So I don't understand that. I mean, I'm not shocked that Texas is favored in this game, even if it is Mateer that can go for OU.
All right, you kind of brought it up. Deion wanted to touch on that topic.
Yeah, I mean, with him having the surgery a couple of weeks ago, did you have any? I know it's still early, but did you have anything? Have you seen anything? Heard anything about how he's feeling? If we're leaning more towards playing, if we're leaning more towards sitting out, do you have any information on that?
I don't have the inside scoop, and I think this really could be. I know people talk about game time decision all the time, and it's not really. I think this really might be. I think this is one where he dresses up, he goes out on the field on Saturday, and if he's able to throw the football and feel comfortable doing so, he's going to start that football game. And if for some reason he's not quite there yet, then they'll hold him back because it is. I mean, with the way things are now, you can afford to drop a few games. I'm not saying they lose without Mateer, but it's not. They're not at a make or break time. You don't have to force Mateer to play at the risk of other games down the schedule. I know he really wants to, and I know the conversation, even before the surgery, the conversation around getting the surgery, the Red River rivalry game was in play from the start. It isn't like it's an accelerated timeline now. It's like hey, it's possible. You know, Jared Goff had a similar surgery, came back in about the same time frame. Dr. Shin is the best in the business. He did Kobe's wrist. He just did Jalen Williams with the Thunder's wrist. He's pretty good with it, and I think it was pretty minor. Mateer was dressed out last game, but with a brace, not a hard cast. And I saw him out there. He was pushing Hawkins before the game. Little two-handed push action. You know, we're reading into everything here. So I don't know. I think he's going to try to play if he can grip a football. I don't even think they need him at 100%. The scale is just, obviously, it's the question of what are the long-term risks here? Is it any riskier than playing football already is for a quarterback? And then the other one is he strong enough to be effective? You can always start him, and if 2 drives in, he's just not quite getting the zip on the ball, you can put Hawkins in at that point. I mean, you're preparing the same way. So I would lean toward, if I was putting money on it, which I don't because I'm not good at betting, I would think Mateer would go on Saturday and at least give it a try.
Interesting. I like that update though, Chris. And something kind of stuck out to me just now in the sense of you reading into everything. And I feel like a lot of Texas fans are doing that right now as well. You see the hype videos, the practice videos of OU, Mateer is in some of those. But then you hear what Venables says earlier this week saying he hadn't done good on good yet. And so what have you kind of taken away from that soundbite from Coach Venables saying, yeah, like, of course he's practicing, but he's not practicing fully. What'd you get out of that?
Yeah, so I was down there for the press conferences, and first offense coordinator Ben Arbuckle goes, and they asked him, hey, how's the process coming along? Is Mateer throwing the ball around? And his answer was, oh, he's following medical protocol out there on the field, just following the steps to get back. It's like, wait a second. Venables was asked the same question and kind of gave a similar, well, he hasn't done good on good yet. It's like, oh, so he is throwing the football around. They've been practicing in the indoor facility. And he said, well, Monday it was 90 degrees. Well, guess who I see walking toward the indoor facility as I'm leaving the facility yesterday? I mean, they're trying to keep it under wraps. Whether that means he's playing or not, they're at least trying to play the mind game of it. But I would imagine, based on what I've heard, that he's throwing the ball. Venables also was kind of like, you can't play the game if you're not doing good on good. Yeah, you can. We see guys get off the plane in a walking boot that they've been wearing since they got on the plane the Saturday before, and they go out and play that Saturday. So much of practice, especially in today's college and professional football, college has kind of stepped up to that model, isn't physical. You're doing film work, and then you're getting out on the field just so you can see the way it moves. Mateer's training, conditioning, all of that stuff, that's in the past. So the good on good isn't as big now as it would be, say, during camp. I don't know. I think that those answers almost make you feel more like, hey, why is he's dodging this a little bit and just trying to make you fill in the blank. Hey, Corey, if he's not doing good on good, can he really play? And then you say, well, probably not. But the answer is yes, he could really play. And he didn't do good on Monday. That doesn't mean he's not doing it on Wednesday and Thursday. So I think those answers, if anything, leave the door open for him to come back.
I'm interested to know your take on this, though, Chris. Just you personally. Of course, if he does play, cool, great. But if there is a risk of if he gets hurt and, like you mentioned earlier, the severity of a re-injury, how much or how impactful is it for OU to get this win this week compared to having Mateer, let's say he doesn't play for the rest of the season? Is there like a consensus of we got to beat Texas, forget about the season? Or is it we have a really good team this year? And okay.
Yeah. If they dropped that game against Michigan, if they would have dropped that game against Auburn, then yeah, this game would mean a lot more. OU fans have their eyes on the playoff, SEC championship, and going to the playoffs. That's what they still, and they can still get there if they lose on Saturday to Texas. So for them, this season, 5-0, they feel like we want Mateer for the long haul. I mean, you've LSU on the schedule, Ole Miss coming to town. You have tough road trip to Knoxville and Tuscaloosa. I mean, there are a lot of big-time games left on the back end of this schedule. And the drop-off from John Mateer to Michael Hawkins is significant. So you don't want that for the long term. That is the answer is, hey, if he has to miss even 1 or 2 more weeks, but that means he hits the last 4, that really tough stretch, I think that's the sacrifice you make.
Got you.
Question. And I'm wondering for both of y'all, If the line opened up as Texas as the favorite, but Oklahoma is ranked number 6, what do y'all think? What do y'all think about that? What do y'all think they're trying to tell us? Because I think that's very confusing. If they're kicking Texas, don't even have a number to their name, and they're opening up as a favorite, what do y'all think that's trying to tell us?
I
Timo, you
can
want
go
to go
first.
first?
Yeah, I can go
Yeah.
first. I think Vegas is just waiting for this offense to pop. I think everyone believes that Texas defense is top 5 in the country, at least top 10, despite last weekend. I feel like that was an anomaly. But everyone is just expecting for this offense to finally click at some point. And Vegas is trying to make sure that they're on the right side of things until it does click. And I also feel like Vegas doesn't know either who's playing, Hawkins or Mateer. And last time Hawkins played Texas, Chris will tell you, like, it didn't go well. And so they're trying to kind of save themselves in a sense of if Hawkins does play, because there is that possibility. Yes, there's been reports that are coming out that saying Mateer is inching closer and closer and is kind of looking towards that. But what if he doesn't? Or what if, like Chris just mentioned, the first 2 series he goes out there, doesn't feel great. Now you got Hawkins for the rest of the game, a guy that Texas defense has full confidence that they can stop. So I think that's where that line is kind of coming from, with the fact of we think that Texas's offense will eventually pop off, which I don't understand why it would pop off against this defense, because Chris, as you know, they've been balling. The Sooners defense, especially that front 7, it has been balling. And like what you saw against Florida in that O-line for Texas, I don't see how you can make that line -1.5, -2.5, knowing what Oklahoma has on that D-line compared to what Florida had. Oklahoma's D-line is a lot better than Florida's D-line. So I don't get how that -1.5 line is like that, just based off the O-line and D-line. So, Chris, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I think you also, I mean, I don't know exactly how all the handicapping works, but you have to remember this was a line that they opened up in the spring. And I don't know why. And there were lines where you could get Texas 8.5, 9.5 minus.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's already like that huge. So if you shifted all the way where suddenly it's plus odds for Texas, I don't know how that throws things off with all that. And I think you also, you look at it and you say, even if Mateer goes, this isn't 100% Mateer in full flow, right? He might be rusty. He might be hesitant. His hand may not be where it was before. So it didn't shock me. I think it shocked a lot of people north of the Red River, and maybe even some in Austin who are reacting to that loss at Florida. OU, especially without Mateer, would have had a hard time against that Florida team as well. I was surprised the Texas defense didn't play as well, but with Hawkins and the offense, if it is Hawkins, it is going to be very difficult for them to get much going at all. He's still, a lot of the bad habits that he had last season still has this season. A little too reliant on his legs, holds onto the football too long, and his footwork was a nightmare. And that was the part that stuck out to me, because that's one of those things that you can fix. And I mean, his platform was all over the place on simple 3-step drops. So they must be thinking it's either there's a good chance it's Hawkins or a less than 100% John Mateer playing in this absurd atmosphere.
Man, I'm going to ask you this question, Chris, as this sun continues to move on me. So if you're watching this on YouTube, that's just the sun creeping down for the sunset. So my blinds are giving off this right now. So I'm trying to fix that. But I got access this morning on Oklahoma radio station. I wonder if do you know what WWW 11 radio station out there in Oklahoma, Chris, at all? If you're familiar with that,
WW 11. I don't know about those.
I think so. I may have just butchered that. The sports animal,
WWLS, sports animal, WWLS. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So yeah,
Sports
so I was on that radio station.
Staple.
It was cool, bro. It was real cool talking to them. I will say that. And they asked me this question. I want to get your answer to this. Who needs this win more, Sark or Venables?
It's a good question, because Venables 1-3 against Texas in his first 4 years hurts. And you would know more about Sark's security. I know people are upset with him right now, but I mean, back-to-back playoff, and from where that program was before he got there to now, I think Venables probably needs it more, especially because of these heightened expectations OU fans now have, where if they drop another game or two and all of a sudden 3 losses don't make the playoff, and you can point back to, wait a second, Texas's offense couldn't get anything going up to that point in the season, couldn't run the football. Arch was struggling, and you still lost 1-3 in that game. I mean, you know how much Fred Akers used to have unbelievable seasons in Austin, but then he would lose a couple games to OU, and that was all it took, right? You can't lose to the rival. And I think for Venables, if he goes 1-3 in his first 4 seasons, they didn't score a touchdown in those 2 losses so far.
Yeah, it was blowouts.
I mean, 2 of those you go to the Cotton Bowl and you can't get the ball in the end zone. So it depends on the manner in which they lose, if they lose on Saturday. But I think Venables still, there's more weight on him to win this game and to show that he can compete in the biggest game of the year. I mean, circled on the calendar every year, regardless of records and rankings.
Yeah, I was going to say, for Sark's angle, right? It's going to be tough to lose this game and then try to have that mantra of like, oh, the season's still ahead of us. Because now you got 2 losses in SEC. And that's going to be tough to kind of bounce back from in conference play. But then also, I think the thing that comes to mind when I talk about these 2 coaches is that Texas' struggles right now is on the offensive side of the ball. Sark is supposed to be the offensive genius. Compared to Oklahoma, one of the strengths is, or the strength is the defense, which is Venables' side of the ball. And so I think if you just compare and contrast those 2 factors too, it's like, well, you're already struggling on the things you're supposed to be an expert at, and then you lose to the rival. Now you're 0-2 in conference play. There's already kind of some chirps with Sark because he hadn't coached well and the team hadn't performed well in big-time games. I believe he's way below 500 when it comes to games against Power 4 teams. Or ranked teams, I should say. And so that's just another narrative that's going to keep building and building as the season goes on if he's unable to win a game like this against OU. And so it's going to be very interesting. I'm definitely excited to see how this all plays out because, you know, Chris, anything can happen in a game like this. Block punts, we're talking about double passes. The craziest things can always happen. And so there's going to be some tricks up each coach's sleeves. I'm just ready to see which ones actually hit and which ones don't. But Dion, I had one more question, but did you have anything else?
No. I mean, is there anybody else? I guess if Mateer doesn't play, is there anybody else we should be looking out for that could really impact this game or make a name for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's got to be on the defense regardless because you have to remember, as good as Mateer has been and how electric as he's been, it hasn't been the 45 points a game. I mean, they scored in the 20s against Michigan. It wasn't like they were lighting up the scoreboard against Auburn. The defense is going to lead the way for Oklahoma, regardless of who's under center, regardless of who the opponent is all season long. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the name R. Mason Thomas. He's an end for Oklahoma. He was going to go to the league last year, decided to come back. That, a little bit of NIL doesn't hurt, but he decided to come back. And this guy is an absolute game breaker. I mean, we saw it last year multiple times against Auburn, back-to-back sacks. They played Tulane last year, 1-score game, and he had, I think it was like 2 or 3 sacks and a deflection all on the same drive. So Tulane, R. Mason sack, R. Mason sack, R. Mason knocks it down the line. He's that. He got the safety against Auburn. He didn't play in the first half of that game, gets 2 sacks and a safety to clinch it for Oklahoma. He's that guy. He's the game breaker, swim moves. Unbelievably fun to watch on that defensive line. Unbelievable tool. So he's a fun one, especially if Texas's offensive line plays the way they did last week. R. Mason is going to have himself a day.
Ooh, that's going to be something to look out for. Thank you for that update there, Chris. One last thing for you. Favorite state fair food? What you got?
Probably the corny dog. The turkey leg, I love seeing them all smoking on the grill there. I think it's a little much for me. I remember last year I was doing a live shot and there was a group of looked like high school age girls, just small, and they were housing the big old turkey legs. And I was like, man, this place is just different. But probably the corny dogs. So they had tacos in there. I think Texas might have brought, I don't know, they catered the tacos. You catered the barbecue. Those are pretty good, but I mean, how can you go? I mean, is there something I'm missing?
I mean, you got all the fried stuff, or the fried Oreos.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and so the funnel cake or whatever, and so the desserts come to mind. But yeah, for sure, the corn dog. Are you a ketchup mustard guy on the corn dog? What you got?
I'm a mustard guy. I'll drench it in mustard, and it shows because I also get drenched in mustard when I'm doing it. carried away. Yeah,
Whoa.
no, it's not great.
Oh, shoot.
I respect it. I'm a mustard guy too, though. Oh, but I also got ketchup on it. I just can't do straight mustard. I gotta do a little duopoly there with the ketchup and the mustard. Yeah. So when you going down? You coming up there Saturday morning, or you gonna go there Friday?
No, I'll go Friday. Do some live shots there during the day Friday from the fair. It's always fun to do that. And
Yeah, that's awesome.
and then game time on Saturday. Whew.
Okay, yeah.
It's fun. We have a new girl that we hired just a couple months ago. She missed the Thunder championship run, unfortunately for her.
Oh,
but
that sucks.
she's in here, and we were telling her, like, it's the most fun thing you're going to cover, but also you have to go in knowing it's the biggest pain to cover. It takes an hour to weave through the crowd with your equipment to get into the stadium. From field to press box, you have to go out and around and all the way through. But if you know that going in, it is just so special. Every part of it is just so special.
Yeah, you get to say hi to Big Tex while you're walking in. And then, of course, whoever gets that golden hat, those shots are amazing.
I know. It's
Whenever you
always
get
so
to be on the
fun. They're
field.
passing it around. And
Yeah, it's a nice little atmosphere. But, Chris, where can people find you and your work?
News9.com. We have a podcast. Oklahoma's Own Sports is the new YouTube page, and so we're talking OU there. I mean, 3 times a week. And the voice of the Sooners is our sports director, Toby Rowland. So he and I are getting after it. And then, of course, Channel 9 in Oklahoma City, Channel 6 in Tulsa. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I should have
stuff.
plugged my personal brand there. I should have said Twitter.
That's why I was at low-key asking for it. Yeah.
I'm a company man.
Hey, big company guy right here. Big company guy.
I'm going to send that to them and ask for a raise. SeaWorld TV. We'll go with that.
Okay, man. SeaWorld TV. Check them out.
I got to do some self-reflection after this.
That's funny.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. But either way, man, whatever platform you watch Chris on, he's phenomenal everywhere. Thank you so much for your time, bro, and can't wait to see you this Saturday.
Appreciate it. Love hopping on with you guys.
Always appreciate my boy Chris for hopping on. And that was honestly a great conversation. A lot of insight about Mateer, about the guys who look out for in the defensive line from OU. What kind of stood out to you, Dion?
I mean, shoot, we really don't know anything still. You know, we're playing it by ear. I'm playing it by tweets. Only thing I do know, I will be taking the under no matter what. The under on this game, because it doesn't sound like it's going to be. Doesn't sound like, I guess it'll be exciting to watch the defenses. It doesn't sound like it's going to be a high scoring game, so I'm definitely taking the under. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, you say that, but I thought the same thing with Florida. Like, I thought for sure DJ Lagway, Arch Manning, they're both struggling going to that game, and then they pop off for the over. So, like I said during Chris's interview, like, you never really know with these games, especially with the Red River, because you can have block punts, you can have all these different things happen. But I am expecting kind of the same thing, though, low-scoring game. So we'll see if I get proved wrong 2 weeks in a row. But other than that, though, what other thing that stood out to me was corn dog cap. I mean, there's so many other options.
What did he say? Lots of mustard.
He said
drenches. Yeah, very particular adjective.
Yeah. I'm good on that. I'm good on I'll dabble with a little ketchup, a little mustard, but drenched in mustard. He said it gets on his shirt.
Yeah, very. I don't know how he's eating that. I don't. Is he pouring the ketchup in his mouth? Is he pouring the mustard in his mouth? And yeah,
that's a crazy,
very
graphic.
interesting way to end the conversation. Wow.
Hey, do you have a favorite State Fair food?
Actually, I don't actually go to the State Fair. I'm never.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever been to the Dallas one. I might have went to the one back home in Waco once or twice. But yeah, all that fried food, and I saw the prices for the stuff this year. It's crazy.
You know, every year it's going to keep getting raised.
I don't know if it's always been like that, but the stuff that I would consider eating is like 25, 30 tickets. I was like, nah, that's not for me. My pockets would be, yeah, they would hate me. So,
hey man, look, I understand. Trust me. That's why I only go for the game.
Yeah, salute to the people that can go, and they said that it blew my mind. Yeah, we started off with 100 tickets. I said 100 for food. And
yeah, well, we'll see what happens this weekend, though. I am excited for this matchup. I just want to go around like the SEC and just look at the other matchups I'm looking out for this week.
Wait, before you
Of
jump into
course,
that, do you think
what's up?
Texas should be unranked? That
That's a
you
great
think
question,
you
bro.
think that's fair?
I would
Looking at
say no.
the
I would say
landscape.
no, it's not. Like, I think if you watch the games, I see the pushback of like, yeah, they're not great, you know. But Chris said something that was just like, yeah, you lose by one possession to Ohio State, which is the number one team in the country, and they look decent offensively a little bit, but defensively they looked awesome. And then of course you win 3 non-conference games. Of course, it's not at the level you wanted to win them at, but you won them. And then against Florida, yes, it didn't look great against them either. Of course, the defensive line caused a lot of havoc. Arch didn't look great. Play calling didn't look great. Defense definitely didn't look great. But at the end of the day, you had one possession to go down the field and score, and you would have been a tie ball game. So it's not like they've been blown out in these 2 games. Both of these places, you go to Ohio State, you lose. You go to the Swamp and lose, which, by the way, I know I mentioned this earlier in the podcast, but like the Swamp, phenomenal. I just got to reiterate that, bro. Phenomenal atmosphere for the Swamp. Probably my favorite atmosphere I've been at so far in my sports career. But if you
Better
lose
than
them
the
to
Ohio? I know you hyped that up.
yeah, better than Ohio State for sure. Ohio State wasn't that loud, and also Ohio State didn't have any like atmosphere theatrics like the Gators did. And so those were the 2 things that I felt like kind of set Florida apart, was its loudness. And I think if you factor in that the game was at 2:30 in the afternoon with the team that's been playing horribly, Florida hasn't been good, and it's raining, and for it to be like that hype, you gotta give respect to that as well because of the circumstance. With Kyle Field last year, that's been my top so far, is that it's been so loud. No one has compared to Kyle Field. Well, let's put factors into that. Night game against Texas for the first time in over a decade, like that all plays a factor. Now, if I want to go to the Swamp and watch a game against LSU at night, I'm sure that mug is electric. If that 2:00 kickoff and the rain was electric, so that's why I feel like the Swamp is a better atmosphere than Kyle Field, and any other field I've ever been to, and including Ohio State. So yeah, bro, definitely. To go back to your question though, I don't think they should be unranked. I don't think even a Penn State. Maybe a Penn State should be unranked because of the way they lost to UCLA. Like, it wasn't even close. With Texas, at least it was one possession by the end of the day. I just didn't expect them to drop from 9 to
Yeah,
nothing.
that is a large.
That's a lot. I mean, but Penn State, I think they dropped from 6 or 7 to unranked. So like those are big drops. So yeah, I don't think they should be unranked, but it seems like Vegas doesn't either.
Early prediction: do you think they finish unranked?
No. I think this team has too much talent. They'll get some wins. I mean, not they'll get some wins. The schedule is, it's not easy, but it gets easier. You got to play Kentucky. You got to play Vanderbilt, which, respect to Vanderbilt, they're great. But Texas has played well against running quarterbacks, and that's kind of who Diego Pavia is. And then you got to play teams like Mississippi State, which will also be a kind of crazy environment with the Cowbells and Starkville. But I think Texas just has more talent than Mississippi State. And so I think that the schedule does get easier, and that will allow for wins to stack up. And as you can see, Vegas already thinks they deserve to be a favorite in this game against the number 6 team in the country. I know AP voters are also thinking the same thing. It's like, eventually this team will click and will pop. And when it does, it'll give them, the moment Texas looks somewhat competent, they'll be ranked. And that's just the Texas brand, to be honest. That's where their brand does play a factor, I feel like. So yeah, that's my answer to that. But we gotta get out of here though, bro. We kind of go over time right now. Thank y'all so much for everyone who's listening in the Most Knows, whatever platform it is, whether it's in the car, whether it's on YouTube. Thank you. If we just ask one thing out of you, is to subscribe, is to share, is to comment, and talk to people about Most Knows, because we feel like it's a great product. But thank you for listening in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you, Chris, for hopping on, and Dion as well. Thank you so much for hopping on. You don't have to do that as well, for taking your time. So with that being said, let's get out of here, D. Yeah.